Hey everybody, welcome back to the Bundy Business Brains Podcast. My name is Luke and I am here with Jacob Arden. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. Good to be here.
So the funny thing is, this show is about businesses that are in Bundy, but we met each other long before either of us lived here.
Long time ago, yeah.
So it's been quite a while, and I thought an interesting place to start would be if you could cut up your life into chapters. What would be the primary chapters up until now, and what's the current chapter?
Yeah, right. So I won't do whole life.
Yeah.
I'll do post-school life.
Yeah, let's do that.
So I left school, didn't know what I really wanted to do. So went to uni, which that was fun. Studied a Bachelor of Journalism. So nearly finished that. Had 6 months to go doing that, and then moved into studying business, which I was really enjoying. So I was doing business as electives and went, okay, cool, that's where I want to go. And then from there, my now in-laws offered me a job, and I moved back to Hervey Bay. So I'd grown up in Hervey Bay, moved back there 2010, I think it was. 2011 it must have been.
Yep.
And then did the accounting thing for a bit. And it just wasn't for me, but same thing. I'm like, I don't know what I really want to do.
Yep.
Moved out to Kingaroy, so my wife's a teacher, moved out there, and we were out there for about 4 years, and during that time I left the accounting business and moved into banking. So that then became my new career, was finance. And so bounced around the bank, or not bounced around, I was moved around the bank.
Yep.
So I was living in Kingaroy, I was originally posted to Hervey Bay, then back to Kingaroy, got moved to Brisbane.
Yep.
And during that time I then went, I want to go back and finish my study just from me.
Completion.
I didn't need it for work, but just for me to be able to go, I've finished this. It was a big thing for me. I had all these part finished degrees, a massive HECS debt. I wanted to actually get something from it. So 2017, start of 2017, I went, right, I'm doing this, and went back and finished my Bachelor of Business over that next couple of years, which was really good. But during that time, I got moved into private banking. So I'd been in retail banking for a couple of years, and then got moved into private bank, which was the high net worth complex area of the bank. Awesome place to work, and got to live vicariously through super wealthy people within Queensland.
The world would look very different from that department, I imagine.
Yeah, very, very different. I remember in my first couple of weeks, I had a phone call from a lady, and so I'd been in the Kingaroy branch, and then I'd been in Springfield, so towards Ipswich. So demographic-wise, not overly high demographics. And then, my first couple of weeks in private bank, I get this call from a lady, and she's like, we want to go and get a loan. We're going to raise our income from 60 to 120,000. And so I was like, that's fine. Got all the info and got off the phone, talked to the banker. I'm like, how do they have a $2 million loan on 60,000? She goes, no, that's per month. And I'll never forget, that was my realization point of, okay, this is a whole different world. And it was, but being with Queensland clients, they were super humble. So
because they come from
and they're self-made. In majority of cases, they're self-made. So they were awesome people to work with. Had the odd outlier that wasn't, but that was very rare. The majority of them were really cool. So I worked through there until 2021. So I was an associate private banker, then a private banker, and then I finished up with the bank in 2021, and my role was client services manager. So I led the associate private bankers for Queensland. So I had a team. I had a guy in Cairns, lady in the Sunshine Coast, team in Brisbane, team in the Gold Coast. So, private bank went through a big sort of change, and a lot of people left through 2021, and I was one of them at the end. So my first son was being born at the end of 2021, and it was that time of life where I'm like, I don't enjoy what I'm doing. I'm working a lot, and like the money not the money's everything, but it was like the money doesn't even counteract any of that. So left the bank and was like, we'll reset and go from there. So I took time off, and it was the best thing I ever did. So I ended up looking after my son for about 18 months, which was absolutely phenomenal. If anyone has the opportunity, especially as a dad, to do that, 100% would recommend it. And I was very fortunate that I was able to do it.
Yeah. I did similar. I can definitely resonate with that. It's highly valuable, right?
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So then that would have been, that was end of 2021. Mid 2022, my wife and I went, we'd had Sam, my oldest, and then we we're sort of going, what's next? And we've been looking at moving in Brisbane and that, and all of my wife's family moved to Bundaberg over sort of a 5-year period for different reasons. And so I just said to her one day, I was like, why don't we go to Bundy? And so it all happened very quickly. Basically within the space of 2 months, we'd made the decision, sold our house, and we moved. And
Wow.
so she transferred up here. I continued to look after Sam. And then, started 2023. We'd been on a trip to America, and as we were coming back, I was like, okay, I need to go and do something. I don't know what that looks like, but wanted to get back into finance. So it's what I really enjoyed doing. And so reached out to Auswide locally because they got a private bank division, met with them, but it wasn't for me. Until my best mates had gone out as brokers at the start of 2021. They'd gone out on their own. So I got talking to them, and originally I hit them up for a job and just said, hey, can I come work for you? And at that stage, they weren't looking for anyone, but they said, if you think there's opportunity up there, then go for it. And so I made the bold decision in hindsight to go out on my own. So
Did it not feel bold at the time?
Oh, it did. I don't know if it felt bold as such. It was pretty daunting. Like Bundy's a very cliquey town. It's just, and it always has been. I think through COVID that has, because of the migration, that has
broken down
dropped.
a bit.
And wouldn't necessarily say cliquey, but it is that thing of born and bred Bundy. So it's a harder town to crack. So going out on my own, knowing no one, and I'd been looking after Sam, so had no real network. Mothers groups aren't overly welcoming of a dad, I must say. So, it was just making that decision to go out on my own, and we said we'll give it 12 months, and we'll see what happens. And it was a big 12 months, in so far as just got out, pounded the pavement, did all of that, set the business up, and then 6 months in, there was another broker in town who was heading towards retirement, and he had a succession plan in place, and he made the decision. A couple of those people made the decision to leave. So his succession plan in the space of about 2 weeks went. So he approached me to help him with overflow, and then that was about 2 months after that. He said, "Do you want to buy my business?" So within 12 months, I went from, "Is this going to be viable?" to buying another book, and now July. So next week will be 2 years in, and it's been like best decision I've made. Hand over fist, a lot of hard work, and kudos to my wife. I still say that. Like 6 months in, my second son was born, William was born, and because I was still trying to grow the business, there were some weeks I was out 4 nights a week and things like that, and just having to work whenever. If clients said they wanted me to be there, I was there, weekends, nights, whatever. So I've been able to tone that down a little bit now, which is really nice. So I do 2 nights a week if you want the out of hours. And it's funny when you don't offer it as much, how many people actually go, "Oh, I am available at 10 o'clock tomorrow, not at 6 o'clock on Friday night." So everything, like, honestly, without sounding cliche, like my wife backed me, and it's now paying.
Give her a medal, right? Like that's
100%. I still say that to this day, that with that time where Will was very, very new and Sam was only just 2. So just 2-year-old and a newborn.
It's a rough time.
I would disappear for 4 nights a week at times, sometimes 5 nights a week, just to be bringing business in. To now be in the position we're in now, it's been very beneficial. But that's basically it from leaving school to now.
That's a whirlwind tour.
Yeah.
In all of that, it's interesting to me that at no point did you, like in the early point, did you have a sense of this is exactly what I want to do, right? It was just opportunity and then next opportunity and next opportunity. What is it about what you're doing now that you enjoy the most? What is it about this that you're like, this is a Jacob thing?
I think the people, again, without sounding cliche, and honestly, like being able to call people and say, "Hey, I've just got your loan approved, you're getting your house." That's awesome. So it is very much the being able to help people is a big thing, because it is where you tend to be putting people in a better situation than what they were in. So sometimes it is first home buyer that we're doing. It might be a refinance, so we're then getting a better rate and all of those sorts of things. Right through to there's some people in really bad situations where we have to really look at how we're structuring a deal to get them in a position that they are. I had a guy last year, it must have been last year. He just trying to free up cash flow because he was just getting absolutely annihilated with, he had a tax debt, he had unsecured debt, he had all of that, and we're able to consolidate everything for him and his cash flow just improved. So it was just this weight lifted. Another lady recently, same thing, tax debt. The wolves were knocking, they were very close. I couldn't do it just for a range of reasons, but was able to refer her on to a guy that I work with, and that was it was about $100,000 tax debt.
Yeah.
And I talked to her after that was approved with him, and just two different people.
Yeah.
So it's those sorts of things. You get people at all different stages, but it's pretty rewarding making those calls. On the flip side, it's pretty crap having to tell people they can't get their house.
Exactly.
But it's just it's being real with people. That's a big thing. So
honesty serves them better, right? Like at the end, that's all you can do. Yeah.
And I say that to people. Like, I don't submit a deal if there's no deal there. We're not running around for 3 months trying to get something done. It's very much, if there is no deal, I will tell you that, but give you that pathway to get to where you want. And people respect that so much more than telling them that yes, it's all good, and then it all fall over.
Yeah. You mentioned coming into Bundy. Bundy is not the easiest town to crack.
Yep.
Are there any people that stand out as outliers in that scenario that or either business owners or other people that you met coming into the town that you're like, these people are worth a shout out?
I think, look, honestly, everyone I've reached out to, I think it's a bit of a misconception. So in terms of from a business point of view, people are pretty open to meeting new people. So I wouldn't say that. I think it's just that it's not necessarily hard. It's just you've got to get off your bum and go and chase it. So I will still say to this day, Shane Chung from Realway, he introduced me to my very first client.
Yep.
And that started everything. So he took a punt, introducing me. It was to one of his best mates and said, I know you're looking for finance. Give this guy a crack. And that then started everything. So I will, to this day, I still owe Shane a lot because he did. If I hadn't had that, it would have been still out there trying to find a deal. So, and then those people referred and so on and so forth. And that's the nature of the industry I work in. Is a lot of it is referral based. So that there, very much so. But honestly, everyone within town has been very welcoming in that regard. So it's more just, and as I said, I think COVID, my timing was good. Because with the migration, that whole care factor about where you're from isn't as big of a deal. People have moved away from it's someone you know and all of that to who can actually get the job done. So my timing was probably pretty good in that regard.
Are there any other things that you've noticed? Because it's funny, this is our second episode. On the first episode, I was interviewing Peter Bender, and he was mentioning a very similar thing, this shift in the culture of Bundaberg. Are there any other things that you've noticed that have changed over the last few years?
Oh,
I mean, the answer could easily be no. I'm just curious.
Yeah, not necessarily. I think there's definitely you've just got more people.
Yeah, more
coming.
people.
That's the thing. So you're getting a bit more of a melting pot of people coming, and that will continue to come. You look at the development that's been approved by council, all of those things. So I wouldn't necessarily say the town has changed. Obviously there has been change, but nothing of note as such. But still, the positive thing for Bundy, and some people say it's a negative, is there is still a lot of migration here. Yep. So the good thing about migration is it brings money, it brings investment, it brings development at the end of the day. So the town itself will continue to grow, whereas we were from Harvey Bay, not much was happening.
No, it was kind of in stasis, right? The people that were there were there, right,
Whereas there's a lot going on. So I don't think there's been any necessarily huge change. It's just I think almost a mindset shift has happened. Just because it's almost organically happened with the type of people that are coming.
Yeah. So in your work, in any industry, there's always questions that continue to come back or mistakes that people make on repeat. Is there anything that stands out to you? What are mistakes that you see on the regular that if people were just a little more educated, they could avoid?
Is it as a broker?
As a broker.
As a broker. The thing I found with broking, so two things. Broking is stupidly easy to get into. Scarily easy to get into. So people get into broking for the wrong reasons. And that's probably the biggest mistake. There's mistakes people make just from a process point of view and things like that, but that's a learning thing. But where I've seen people get into it for the wrong reasons is, yes, you can make a lot of money, but you got to work blooming hard. So they get into it for making money, first and foremost, not that cool, I actually enjoy finance, or I want to help people,
Yeah.
all those sorts of things. The driving factors are wrong. They chase every deal. So as I said before, I'll say no to deals. And look, that may be to my detriment. Someone else may write it. But I say no to deals, and that tends to build respect. Whereas you've got these people who they haven't been in the finance industry for long enough to be able to identify when there's just no deal there. So they end up spending all this time trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, and the clients end up hating them. Or they submit a deal that's never going to fly, and that's the thing. And the other thing is, because of that inexperience, they don't say they don't know.
Yep.
So that's one of the biggest things. And there's mistakes there. And we're playing with people's lives. That's what I don't like about how easy it is to get into, is we are playing with people's lives at the end of the day. So, yeah, they'll be...
Like, imagine if a doctor was like, oh,
Yeah,
you know,
correct.
it's a
Doctor does
12-month
that 3-day
certificate.
course.
Yes.
Well, it's a 3-day course.
Really?
Or
Okay. Wow.
booklets
Yeah.
that you've got to do. It's a diploma, and there's different things. You've got to have a mentor and those sorts of things. But your mentor could sit.
Yeah.
They don't sit
How,
in meetings.
yeah.
with
How
you.
much integrity do they have?
Correct.
Are they taking their
So-
role seriously?
And they don't sit in meetings with you. So you're in meetings with people and making decisions on their finances, and you may have no idea. And that's where people get caught out, is they're in those meetings. They want to look good, but then they're just blowing smoke.
Yeah.
When they should just be saying, look, not 100% sure, let me find out and I'll do this. So yeah, that's probably the biggest thing. And it almost is a reputational thing. There's a lot of slimy brokers out there. Like the good brokers that I talk to, they'll say the same thing. There's a lot out there that are just slimy salesmen. And I don't mean to put a bad thing on the industry, but that is ultimately, because it is too easy to get into.
Yeah.
That is the issue.
Yeah. I mean, even in my industry, you know, in websites development, all those kind of things, there's no bar of entry.
Yep.
You know, I mean, there's even less than there is in your industry.
Yep.
And so you could be talking to someone who is really unethical and are going to give you a terrible end result, but they can look and sound like an actual reputable person who's been in the industry for, 15 years. And yeah, it's just a totally different thing. So, okay. So what about from the perspective of people who are looking for a mortgage, the clients that you see? Is there anything, like, if you were going to rank something that you think people should know that many don't?
Things that people should know that many don't.
Or perhaps mistakes that they make when you have to clean up a mess from someone else.
Well, I honestly don't have to clean up that many messes. Like that is a positive.
That's good.
There's not that many messes.
The checks and balances are working then.
Yeah,
right?
correct.
Yes.
I think the biggest mistake I see is first home buyers is not knowing that they don't need a 20% deposit.
Yeah.
So I saw a thing recently, and it was true. Yes, cost of living, etc., is tough at the moment, but it is actually the easiest time to buy a house in so far as you've got so many government schemes to assist in buying the house. So yes, prices are expensive, although I'm not discounting that. But you've got stamp duty concessions, you've got first home guarantees. The state government today has just released something where it's like 2% deposits, and that's the state government now doing something. Don't know much about it. You've got first home owners grants for building. There's a lot of things there to save money. If you stack all of these things, you're saving tens of thousands of dollars. And then guarantors, all of those sorts of things. So that's probably one of the biggest ones is you don't need
You've got more access than you think.
Correct.
Is kind of the short story.
Yeah,
right?
100%. And then it's just that people's borrowing capacity is higher than what they think. But in terms of a mistake is they go on to the bank calculators, which are super inaccurate.
Yeah.
And instead of getting advice. And that's probably the biggest mistake I'd say is people don't go and talk to the right people early enough. And whether that's a broker, whether that's a banker, but go and talk to someone who can run accurate numbers and give you a state of play of where you're at.
And I think there's a misconception as well that, people, and like you say, yes, there are some, slimy mortgage brokers out there, but I think people hear about that, and especially, they hear about how finance works in other countries and whatever, and they think, oh, I can't trust any of these people. And so they dip out of the process. I know when I first started looking for a mortgage, some years back, I kind of had that in the back of my mind. I'm like, I don't really want to talk to a broker because, in my mind, I'm like, well, I don't know what their incentives are. And if I don't know what their incentives are, how do I trust them to make a good decision for me? And so I did the thing where I reached out to different banks and at the end of the day, we got a mortgage, but like I'm not 100% sure that was the best thing that I could have done at the time, right? And you were saying to me the other day that like there's, you know, the income that you get is it's structured, right? Like there's no room for you to be having like misaligned incentives.
And it's all very.
I don't think most people know that.
No, it's basically the banks are all pretty well the same.
Yeah.
Like they're close enough that it makes zero difference to go to another bank. It's not like one bank's paying us 5% and another's paying us 0.5 sort of thing. They're all very much, and legally we're bound by what's called best interest duty. So the banks aren't. Understandably, they aren't because they have their two products.
Yes.
But or two or three products, whatever it is. But as a broker, I'm legally bound to do what's in my client's best interest.
Yeah.
So I can't be there. Look, technically, you could, but you have to put so much documentation in place to say why you've done certain things. Our income is actually written onto the documents.
Yeah.
So there's no hiding it. On the documents a client signs, it is this is how much I'm getting paid. So it's not really a big deal. And at the end of the day, we're free. Like the banks pay us, not the client. So it's one of those things where I say to people, you may as well use it. Having been a banker and been a broker, I 100% would say use a broker. Whether it's me, someone else, whatever, I don't care. But as you said, you made all those phone calls to banks and everything. That's my job. Yeah. At the end of the day, not to do that. If someone has a really good relationship with a banker, 100%.
Yeah.
But it's all very overt on what we earn, and income is obviously a big driver for people. In a commission-based business, income is a big driver.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned just then that about having been on both sides of the fence, right, in the banking industry and in this industry. I'm not sure how common that is in the industry, but what do you think? Is there any like superpowers that you have or specific insights that you feel that you have because you've been on both sides of that fence?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, because the barrier to entry to broking is lower, and there are more bankers leaving to become brokers. Okay. The banks are now fighting back a little bit just with how they're structuring their bonuses and things like that. But it definitely is beneficial having been a banker first, because you just understand how the actual deal process, so how to talk to credit. If you're mitigating something, it's how to do that. The other thing of how to spot a deal and not spot a deal. Coming from private banking, just more complex lending. That's really beneficial. Whereas, if you come with no background, genuinely, I don't know how you can do it. Yeah. Like my first couple of deals were hard enough learning the system, let alone learning the system plus learning how to write an application. And honestly, it comes with rightfully or wrongfully, it comes with a bit more respect from our BDMs when you say this is my background, because they know if you're calling them to ask for help, there's actually some thought behind it. It's not just calling for the sake of calling. So definitely a benefit coming from a banking background, and a relationship management background is also beneficial. So you've got a lot of private bankers leaving, you've got a lot of commercial bankers leaving. They are true relationship managers. So very good at that side of things, not just being transactional. Yeah. And speaking of that, how do you build that kind of trust? Because as you say, there's a lot of people that aren't necessarily the best in the industry. You obviously are setting yourself apart for the customers that you're working with. Yep. How do you think about that? How do you do that? I don't think about it. That sounds bad. I think it's just ingrained now of just doing the right thing. Again, I'm sounding super cliche, but it is that. Yeah. But I think it's also, as I said, I do a lot of first home buyers. It's about making it as simple as possible and just being truthful with people. As I said, like if there's no deal there, I will tell you there's no deal. And I say to all my clients, I'm like, I'm not here to make you feel good. That's not my job. Yep. My job is to tell you what the numbers are and we work out a plan of attack. It's not to be all sunshine and rainbows, because there are times where I'm like, you guys are nowhere near where you need to be. Yeah. But this is what you need to do. And so that's where it just inherently comes. And then once you've done that for a few people, then that the snowball happens then. Right? Yeah. But all it takes in town like Bundy is one field person to not even be burned, but feel like they've been burned, and it can flip very quickly. So as you've done the in the corporate space, in the banking space, you're now doing your own thing. For people, even just like on the general business front,
if somebody is starting a new business in Bundaberg, you talked a little bit about the need to just get out there and get in front of people. Are there any other pieces of advice that you would give for someone that's kicking off something new in Bundy?
We'll do the not just Bundy. We'll just do general.
Good business, right?
So get a team around you early. So a mistake I made was just how I structure my business. If my accountant watches this, he will laugh because he knows. There are certain places to cut cost, and that setup is not one. Getting people, not necessarily mentors around you, but people within that same realm. Especially if you're going into a business like me where I just work on my own, there are days that suck and you need someone to talk to. You don't want to be offloading on your partner, a roommate, whatever, all the time. So it's having people that also get it. So that's sort of industry in general, is build a general support network, but also build your advisory team early on, because it's not easy to unwind things. It's easy to have it set up right in the first place. In terms of Bundy in general, get out and you just got to get out and get off your bum and go and meet people. You've got chamber events, they run stuff all the time. Other guys at used to be Strategic Business, I think it's just Business Co now. So Nathan and Rachel, they run Network and Nibbles once a quarter. Like some of those events, you just got to get out and meet people. And for the most part, people are happy to meet the other people in town, understand what you do. It's not big and scary. And then just generally, as much as it sucks and I hate it, is cold calling. Depending on what your industry is, work out who your referral partners are going to be and go and try and talk to them. If you just sit waiting for stuff to come through the door, it's just very, very unlikely it's going to happen. So it's got to suck eggs a bit and get out. And if you can't do that, you honestly shouldn't be running a business.
Yes.
That's reality.
Yeah, 100%. That proactive side of it is it sets a huge difference, right? Because you got to be willing to do whatever it takes, and whatever it takes looks different for every business. But
it's just being out and about, insofar as people know they may not need you now. And lending's one of those things. People don't need me every day of the week, but they may need me in 6 months. And if I've seen them continuously over a period of time, then that is where it then comes through the door. Same as social media. It's just, yes, there may not be a lot of traction, but people are seeing it. And it's exactly that. It's being top of mind.
Yeah, well, actually. Before you mentioned, some new housing that's been approved for Bundy. So like putting the crystal ball sort of glasses on for a second, what are some things that are coming up in Bundy? What do you think are some great opportunities that are coming down the line?
Oh, look, obviously the hospital, it's a debate point, but the hospital 100% will be a good thing. The development that's been approved, there's obviously, like when you look around, the development that's been approved, like they're big developments. So the one that was just approved at Coral Cove, I think it's either 1,200 or 1,500 houses. Like it's a big, that's a suburb. Yeah. But when you then look around at who is coming to Bundy, like you've just had Kings open, you've just had Sydney Tools move here. They're building a new Coles out Bargara Way, between Bargara and Innes Park, Ruffle Range Road there. That's coming in the next couple of years. So these big companies who don't just open shops anywhere.
They've usually done a lot of demographic research before they do anything
opening,
like that.
Yeah, correct. They're opening up here. So you've got the Kepnock Village and that Kepnock shopping centre. That's all. That's got other stages to come. So there is lots going on here. You've got the marina development. That's, from my understanding, is back on track at Burnett Heads. So that's a big development. And that will then lead on to, from what I've heard, that'll then lead on to whale watching from Bundy and all of those sorts of things. So there is lots and lots going on, and that doesn't happen. People don't spend this amount of money if they don't foresee that it will actually pay off. So you won't have a developer going and building a 1,500 block estate if they don't see they're going to sell it. So there's that, and then you've just got government schemes change from 1 January next year. So property threshold in Bundy goes up to 700K, and there's no income threshold. This is for first home buyers, and so that will just allow more people to enter the market. Unfortunately, is going to price out some people, but will allow more people into the market at that first home buyer. So, I think the next few years are still going to be pretty crazy. But there's lots of opportunity, not just Bundy, just the Wide Bay in general. And like I said, lots of big companies spending lot of money here. So they're obviously seeing something in the data.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's cool. That is very exciting. That's very exciting. So, as we kind of wrap up, 2 questions. One, is there any other business person you'd like to dob in that you think should be in that seat next time?
Dob in. You know who'd be good for you? It would
Who's
be
that?
Brent Illingworth from Realware.
Yeah. Okay.
And can talk. So got gift to the gab. So yeah, he's one that I would say reach out to.
All right, I'll put him on my list. So, and my final question is, if somebody hears this and goes, you know what, that's exactly what I was looking for, I'd really love to talk to Jacob. How do people find you?
So if you Google Black Lab Finance, so got all the socials, all that sort of stuff. But honestly, just pick up the phone and give me a call. The phone number's on the website, and if you just Google me, the phone number's all there. That is the easiest way. Google, email. Phone call, email, whatever's easiest there. But the biggest thing, as I say, if you are looking at finance, do it early. Whether it's me, another broker, whatever, with that person, you want to have a good feeling and a good relationship with them. So it's finding someone that you can go to early on that will give you the advice that you need to be able to get to where you want to go.
Sure. No worries. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate being on the show.
No worries, mate. Great to be here.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks.